Hello, everybody. Welcome into another PTN Extra on this fine Wednesday afternoon. That's Mike Irwin. I'm Evan Kamiko. Coming up a little later in the show, we're going to have Arkansas cross-country women's head coach Chris Johnson sit down with our Jacob Morris in a quick one-on-one. But for now, Mike, let's talk about what everyone wants to talk about, Texas A&M and the final game of the Southwest Classic. I want to get first your thoughts on the history of the rivalry itself and maybe one of your favorite memories, as this is the last year it'll take place in Jerry World.
Well, first of all, this game, we got to talk about it. It was designed for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think from an Arkansas standpoint, they felt like this gives you a recruiting tool in Texas, a presence every year where local media is going to have to write about Arkansas. Because unless you're playing a team like it, well, how are you going to get in a Dallas newspaper? How are you going to get in a Houston newspaper? So it accomplished that right off the bat. You've also got the largest number of alums outside of Arkansas in the Dallas area. So it was a kind of a tribute to them. Okay, we're going to let you see a game close to home. And then it was close enough so that Arkansas students could go down and go to the game. And they always look forward to a chance to go to Dallas. So let them come in and do it. And then a lot of those students were from Dallas, so they could come in on Friday, spend the night at home, go watch the game, spend the night again, and come back on Sunday. So it was a win-win, provided you win. Well, those first three games coincided with the Bobby Petrino era, and he won all three of them. Mm-hmm. And two of them were pretty comfortable wins. One of them, they kind of pulled it out. But it was really good. And what was interesting is you would look around in there and you would see, even though Aggies are everywhere in Texas, mm-hmm. It was almost a 50-50 split on the ticket sales. A few more Aggies, but there were a lot of Arkansas fans there. So it was real good. It worked. And then all of a sudden, A&M entered the SEC. And so for whatever reason, they decided, well, these first 2 years, we're not going to continue this. We're going to do a home and on. I don't know why they did that. Didn't make any sense to me. So you played the first year at A&M in 2012. That was the John L. Smith year. And wow, what a wacky deal. John L., they lose this game. Johnny Manziel runs all over him, and that was kind of his initiation as a college quarterback. Nobody knew much about him, and he just went wacky that day. And Arkansas wore those anthracite uniforms. And I remember being over on the Arkansas side of the field, and nobody liked those anthracite uniforms.
They're horrible.
Yeah, they are. If you're going to put black in there, put black in there. That's milk toast. Don't do that. It's horrible looking. So they're coming off the field. We're over there. We're going to get them coming off to their locker room, which was on the visitor side where Arkansas's fans were, and they were over there on kind of the corner of the stadium. And I just remember John L. running by with the fans, and this guy stood up and he was cussing. And he said, take your blankety blank blank and those blankety blank uniforms and get out of here. We don't ever see you again. So it was not fun. And then they came back and it was a more competitive game the next year in Fayetteville. But then you bring it back to Jerry World. I don't think anybody had any idea how A&M was suddenly going to start dominating that game, because the whole history of the Arkansas A&M series, Arkansas still has more wins than the Aggies, mm-hmm. but they've caught up lately. And I don't think it had anything to do with Jerry World. I think it had to do with suddenly the program went in the dumper when Petrino left. And we've seen that ever since, and it's not a surprise to me that in my opinion, the only real decent coach Arkansas has had since Petrino was fired, even though a lot of the fans don't think this, I think Pittman is. And their only win since then, it came in 2021. That was a good thing. My favorite memory, though, is our ex-sports director, Jason Carroll, would always shoot Arkansas coming out onto the field. He would send me over to get the Aggies. First of all, he knew I didn't like to be around Aggies.
No, you get mad when I wear my Texas A&M hat around here.
So he sends me over there to hang out with these Aggies as they run out onto the field. So I'm standing there in one of these games. I don't remember which one it is. And I turn around and I look, and one of those guys with the cavalry outfit, he looks like Black Jack Pershing in World War I. He's got the little hat, and he's got the poofy riding pants, and he's got the boots up to the knee and the spurs and all that stuff. So we're standing there, and I'm looking, and he's there, and I go, psst, hey, psst, hey. And he kind of goes, sir. And I go, where's your horse? And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, I mean, you got the pants, you got the hat, You got the spurs. You got to have a horse. And he goes, sir, that's not funny. So that was my favorite memory. Just a little gig to the Aggies. I've never understood that stuff. I mean, okay, you've got a military presence. You got your whatever they call that stuff when you're on campus in the Army. I don't know if you really
the ROTC
yeah, whatever
program.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're really in the Army or not, but you do
kind
that.
of.
And they're wearing that, and their band wears those things and all that stuff. But I've never understood what the Army, the World War I charge up San Juan Hill uniforms have to do with any of that.
Right.
But there's a lot of things about the Aggies I don't understand.
That's true, and 90% of it you probably don't like either. But to your point, Arkansas is leading this series 42-35-3. But the Aggies are 11-1 in the past 12, like you've already mentioned, that win coming in 2021. But we've seen really close matchups over the last couple of years, whether it was KJ reaching over the goal line, the ball getting swatted away, or Aggies going down and scoring, making Arkansas pay. The Cam Little, I think it was coined online as the oink doink. I think that was what I was reading earlier today. But this is two teams this year where Mike Elko, now first-year head coach of Texas A&M, said that the environment plays a role. You're in Jerry World. Like I said, last year there's probably 80,000 fans, I want to say, 70, 80,000, maybe more A&M, but maybe that's just me looking up to all of the bleachers there and all the seats and just seeing the rows of ROTC and Aggie alumni and current students all dressed head to toe in their uniforms, which was really interesting for me. The Aggie Warhol, I think, is very interesting as well. But seeing their football environment and then going down to baseball, kind of getting a sneak peek at this rivalry on kind of two sports in baseball and in football. But it's kind of the tale of two similar teams. Both of them have questions in the passing game, but both of their rushing attacks, Arkansas is fourth in the SEC, 240 yards a game. The Aggies are second in the SEC, 256 yards a game, and they're missing Reuben Owens, their running back one to end of the season. He's out for the year. Now you have Le'Veon Moss, who's running the ball really well, and they ran all over Florida last week in that 33-20 win. So for you, what's the key for Arkansas if they want to go down to Dallas and win this year?
Well, this is a little bit like the Auburn game in that you have Connor Wegman, the starter, and he's got some sort of shoulder injury, and so he's out, and they don't know if he's coming back. They sort of indicate they think he might, but then the scuttlebutt coming out of A&M is no, our backup is going to be there, and he's a freshman, and so he's a runner.
Yeah.
But he's not much of a passer. I'm reading stuff about he doesn't read defenses very well. He underthrows his receivers. If all of that happens and it works out that way, and we got a question this week on our Ask Mike segment, do you think with A&M mainly being a running team, Travis Williams will go to a five-man front? I don't think he's going to do anything that drastic, but he clearly will adjust as the game goes on if he sees they're not having success throwing the ball, that their main strategy is running. And it would seem that you're going to run into Arkansas' strength if you run into that D-line, except we saw what happened in the UAB game. Now, maybe that was just UAB, because I did think that Arkansas did a good job of stopping Auburn's running game. So I don't know. You never can predict these things 100%.
Right.
I just have a feeling, this being the last game, Pittman's done it once before. I think they're going to pull this off, but they are going to have to definitely pressure the quarterback when he throws. And if you do that, then you may make them one-dimensional. If they don't have any success throwing, then you can make them one-dimensional.
Right, and here's your problem too, that I think you have the right idea where they have to get to the quarterback, but Texas A&M this season, and obviously the best team they've played is Notre Dame in that loss against the Irish. They've only allowed 3 sacks for 15 yards this season, and we've seen Arkansas have trouble getting to the quarterback, whether that's teams doubling Landon Jackson, giving him a chip, making it hard for him to get involved in that pass rush game. So you really need somebody opposite of him to step up. Anton Junkaj, I thought, played a lot better last week against Auburn, able to generate a few QB hurries and QB rushes. Xavier Story also flying in as well. But then you look at the Arkansas side, and again, they've allowed 9 sacks. So you got to, keep Talon healthy and upright. But to the point of Texas A&M, 5 sacks, 15 yards, 3 sacks, 15 yards. And neither of these teams really are able to get to the quarterback very well. They both rank 11th and 10th in the SEC when it comes to that. And again, I think a big thing in this game is going to come down to third down and the conversions. Can Arkansas convert these third downs? They're first in the SEC, 36 for 59 total third down conversions. whereas the Aggies are 12th. So it's going to come down to who's going to make that play, whether it's Reed or Wegman, or is Talon Green going to settle down, settle into the game early this week? I think that's the big question for Arkansas is how quickly can you get Talon settled in this game?
Well, again, does he start this game nervous too? Because according to Jaquindon Jackson, he's nervous before every game. Well,
Right.
I don't know. He's playing essentially at home. What does that do? Does it make him more nervous, less nervous? Does he feel comfortable because he got family in the stands? I don't know. A big part, I think, of Arkansas is whether they're going to have success as they get into the meat of this SEC schedule. And let's face it, I do think Auburn went all out and played a really tough game. They weren't. I don't think what we saw against Auburn last week is typical of what we'll see from here on out. I don't think they're going to do much this year because they've got some big problems at quarterback. So you got to really say this. Most of these games from here on out are going to be tougher than that game was.
Right.
So what happens here? How does Arkansas manage to win if it gets tougher? And that game was pretty close. To me, comes down to Green. He's got to develop more confidence. He's got to throw better. He's got to have, I think you still want him to improvise some, but do it less. And so this would be a good test of that. Maybe he gets in there and gets all fired up in NFL atmosphere. He wants to play in the NFL with an NFL stadium. I like to believe that, but I don't know.
Not to mention Talon Green, also from that Dallas area, has experience playing there. And to your point, if you look at the Arkansas schedule as we move forward, right? There's 3 games they're probably not going to win, and that's Tennessee, Texas, and Ole Miss. I know you want them to beat Texas, but we got to slow our roll on that because they are the #1 team in the country. But this is a game, I think this is the pivotal game of the season. You needed to go 1-1 in the stretch of Auburn and A&M. You got your win, so now you can afford to lose. But if you win this game, more likely than not, Arkansas is going to go to a bowl game, and that should silence all these Pittman hot seat questions. I think he already has silenced some of them, but I'm curious on that front. And then we'll talk a little bit about this UNLV drama going on right now. Where do you see, if Arkansas goes out and loses this game, how do you see the noise around Pittman? Does it come back? Because we really haven't heard it this week.
Well, of course, because the people that want him gone just wait. They haven't really shut up this week. If you've read any of this stuff, number one, they're saying they didn't beat anybody. Auburn's terrible. And I will agree they're not very good, but they were good on that day. And that's the lack of, I don't know if it's a lack of sports knowledge, but you can get so hooked up into an agenda that you don't think properly.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, Auburn's not all that good, but they were good that day. So then you get into a lot of other issues. And what they're basically going to say is, well, see, it's just like last year's team. I mean, there were people actually arguing. I'm serious about this. There were people on the internet actually arguing that 58-yard pass from Talon Green to Isaiah Sategna was a bad pass. A bad pass. I guess they thought he's running away from his arm, so he's got to stop and plant and throw on the run and throw it 50 yards in the air. And because it didn't hit him in the hands running away, it becomes a bad pass. You could show that to any NFL scout, and he would not say that was a bad pass.
Right.
But they say it's a bad pass, and they were seriously having arguments about this. Oh, it was a bad pass. Even that was a bad pass. So those people, they're not going to give you anything. I mean, if they beat A&M, then they're going to say A&M's overrated. They're going to have to beat Tennessee or Ole Miss or I don't know. I don't know what happens if you beat Mizzou, but then Mizzou becomes bad.
Right.
A lot of these teams are just bad if you beat them.
Yeah, exactly. And again, are people wondering what happened 3 weeks ago when Tyrone Broden let that touchdown when Talon rolled out, hit him right in the hands, go to the ground? Would that have been a bad pass? Well, it was because Tyrone Broden dropped the ball, but it was pinpoint accurate, and that would have maybe given Arkansas another touchdown on the board. They would have won that game. We'd be walking in, and they're 4-0 heading into this week, and they're ranked. So that's the A&M recap. That's our preview for that game. Let's talk a little bit about this UNLV drama because it's something that, and I want to relate it to Arkansas in the sense of UNLV's quarterback, Matthew Sluka. He's done for the year. He's going to transfer. He was guaranteed money, only got $3,000 of it. But the bigger issue of this all is that UNLV's overarching parent company when it comes to NIL is the same as Arkansas's in Blueprint Sports. Do you see this potentially as a bigger problem that the Hogs should be kind of keeping an eye on, far away from, when it comes to NIL and working with Blueprint Sports here in Fayette?
I don't know that you can keep an eye on it. This just sort of came out of nowhere.
Right.
Now, if it's as he says, and they didn't pay him what they promised, this should not have been a surprise to them. But that's not what other people are saying. They're basically saying, no, he wanted more money. And they're saying this is the problem with NIL. You make a deal with somebody, and then somebody comes in and says, hey, if you'll redshirt right now, if you'll quit right now, this will count as a redshirt year. You can come here and we'll give you this. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with, it's not just NIL. It's NIL combined with the transfer portal and some of the things that other teams have been doing to steal players away. And now generally it's after the season. It's not just early in the season. They're playing well. Mm-hmm. This decision takes a team that was unbeaten and exciting, and their fans are all excited. Whoops, the quarterback is gone. So I've already read some stuff that their backup is pretty good too. They might be better off and all this stuff. But it's just unclear what really happened there. And if it really is a deal where they promised him and then didn't deliver, that looks bad on them. I'm sure the truth will come out sooner or later. But it's just it's an NIL mess created by the fact that you've got NIL, but then you add the portal and you can redshirt and still immediately transfer after that year and get another year of eligibility. So it's a mess.
Yeah, not to mention too, Michael Allen, their running back, also done getting a redshirt transfer out. He was the transfer from NC State that they got. So a lot of questions going on in the Mountain West, not to mention all the realignment issues going there. Maybe that's a conversation for a different day on PTN Extra, but for now we'll just focus on Texas A&M, Arkansas, as that matchup is going to be on Saturday at 2:30 over on ESPN at AT&T Stadium. The Hogs 3-1. Same with the Aggies. They're ranked 24th. That kicks off, like I said, 2:30 p.m. on ESPN. That's going to do it for this section of PTN Extra. Mike Irwin, thank you for joining me as always. Coming up after the break, Chris Johnson, Arkansas cross country head coach, has a chat with our Jacob Morris. Stick around. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back into PTN Extra. It's an exciting week here in Fayetteville as the Razorbacks cross-country teams are set to host the Chili Pepper Festival over at Aggie Park, which helps raise money to support local high school and junior high cross-country teams here in Northwest Arkansas. Our Jacob Morris caught up with women's head coach Chris Johnson on his expectations heading into the weekend and why this event is so important.
Just, outlook on the team so far and moving forward this year.
Well, obviously, we got, like I said, our top three are very dynamic, and they're all Americans, and they're returning. We're looking for 4, 5, 6, and 7, but we got some youth, and we're trying to develop them, and also some older kids that are just developing and getting better as time presents itself. So we're excited. Obviously, we got to keep these young ladies healthy. We got to kind of keep them running together and keep them motivated in that way. But this is a very exciting team, and obviously we're ranked 12th in the country, so somebody thinks we're good. And obviously we want to meet those standards. We want to continue to get better and progress. Obviously November is a big time for us, and we want to be spot on in November, but this is a build up into that. So Chili Pepper is great for us. It's great for the community. These young ladies get to compete on their home course, and this is where they do a lot of the training. And so it's exciting, and they always look forward to it. You can always see them a little, pre-meet jitters, because obviously there's expectation, and then their fan base is going to be here. The high schools and all the people that's surrounded with the high schools are going to be here, and they get to perform. And it's the first time in a long time, at least since I've been here, where they compete on the same day as the high school. So, that course is going to be packed. There are going to be people screaming and yelling. So there'll be a lot of excitement on the course, and we're looking forward to that, and I know these young ladies are as well.
Yeah, with the shift back to having the high school races on the same day, just how exciting is that for you? How exciting is that for the athletes?
Well, I think it brings that atmosphere, so I think it's exciting, and obviously the high schools this means very important to the high school, but it's also very important to the college, and these kids get to compete, and they get to be surrounded with community, surrounded with their fans and the people that love cross country in this community. So I think that we're fortunate, and obviously they've changed the schedule a little bit, and I think it plays into our favor. It's a bigger home field advantage. Obviously, we got a great turnout year in and year out, but I think this year will be even better turnout with all all the races, at least the high school and the college races on the same day.
Yeah, this race is always such a spectacle. Just what does it say about what cross country, what running means to the Northwest Arkansas area?
Well, I mean, running means everything to the community in Northwest Arkansas, and obviously you can see that with the amount of sponsors and how big this meet has grown, and the so many high schools and colleges that's excited just to be in this environment. And obviously football is away, and they get the main stage, and I think there's something to be said about that. And it's a big stage, and obviously it's not quite as big as a football game, but there'll be thousands and thousands of people and fans out there that are excited about distance running and cross country, and we're looking forward to be a part of it.
What goes into managing those pre-race jitters? It's going to be a unique atmosphere. What goes into keeping some of those emotions under control and just going out and performing?
Well, obviously you got to learn the personnel, and obviously I've got a in-depth nosedive into learning these young ladies and getting to understand their nuances and what makes them tick, and then obviously Coach with his plethora of knowledge being able to help me and assist in just getting these athletes prepared mentally and get them confident to understand that, hey, you can do all things, you just got to work hard and stay focused and be diligent and consistent in your training, and just to get them to believe in themselves. And I think these young ladies have stepped up. They've done a fantastic job, and I think they're prepared to go out and do well.
I've heard you obviously emphasize prioritizing health a lot. I've heard you mention, ramping up for November as well. How hard is that balance for you as a coach, saying, hey, we got to stay healthy, but we also got to be prepared for November?
Well, I think it's getting the kids to understand the little things, and the little things are important. They got to understand that everything that we do is important. It's just as much on the track as off the track. So the things about taking care of your body, getting the proper rest, getting the proper sleep, the hydration, and just the mental mindset to go out and be able to compete for 6K or 5K, whatever the distance may be, that's a lot of focus, and it takes a long time. So you got to practice those things, and you got to develop a repetition. So we want to develop the mind as much as the body, and I think these kids are buying in, although it's not easy. They're really working hard to get to where they need to be.
And the last one for me, I mean, you said it, high ranking coming in, there's always going to be expectations at Arkansas. What's the balance between embracing all of that and then just taking it one race at a time as well?
Well, understanding who you are and understanding where you are in the season and where you need to be and what are we working towards. We're working towards November, but obviously this meet is very important, and the progression to get to where we want to be, the conference meet, the regional meet, the national meet. So every meet leading up to that is a dress rehearsal for those meets. So they play an important role in what we're doing, and they're garnering confidence, they're getting experience, race experience, and they're getting to understand what are you going to do if I feel like this, or vice versa, or even if I'm feeling great, learning the nuances of what they need to do as an individual, but also to work collectively as a group and stick together and encourage each other and push each other within that competition. So, like I said, that's a long time to really focus, and these young ladies are really working hard, and we're trying to get them to understand the importance and sticking together and working really hard. So this is very much a team sport in terms of it's going to take 5 to score, and 6 and 7 can displace. So getting them to come together and understand that, hey, everyone is important, every place is important, it's going to be able to catapult us to being the best we can be.
Jacob, thank you very much. That's going to do it for PTN Extra this week. As always, thank you for joining us. For our production crew, Mike Irwin and Jacob Morris, I'm Evan Kamiko saying so long, and we'll see you back here next week on PTN Extra.